has the Jet with the Blade Storm. And I honestly really like Leap's team comp. Having both the Astra and Fade really powerful, even if you don't have that damaging utility to go along with it. You're ready is actually going to try and do that here with the help of the turret entering onto the B site. Definitely knows that at least Mel is sitting there alongside a teammate to destroy the turret. Jazzykins trying to go aggressive.
Blocking sight.
Cloud9, this is a very different strategy than what we saw from them in the last map. They're getting a little bit more aggressive, taking more space.
Yeah, I mean, I like this strategy when you're on this pistol round. I think that we also got to see Cloud9 White play with very aggressive players as well, so that also was a big impact on how aggressive they can play. You have people coming to you, it's a lot harder to go towards them.
Spike
and this
down
time, Alexis
One enemy
quite
remaining.
a bit of bragging potential there. 2 kills picked up. Jared doing a fantastic job turning and burning Mel and Jazzykins, but it's only a little bit of time gathered before Alexis is on the case and finds Cloud9 White that first round coming into this first best of 3 in the round 16.
And now Cloud9 White, I think they've won every single pistol that we've witnessed them play.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't think it's unsurprising that they do take that first one. Alexis this time going to be the impact fragger for that round, getting the spike down in Garden. And now all the team is going to be picking up the Spectre, save for Mel, who's going to try and do that Spectre on the defensive side of the set.
And a slow start now. Kind of once again, can see if they can bait somebody out. I like just going for playing with sound as much as possible, especially when you are lighter on weaponry, as Elite certainly are on this round. And Dink's gonna hang around, see if anyone decides to do a late peek. But Cloud9 White, very different from how far they played up in the previous round, are choosing to really hold back and just wait for Elite to make the first move.
I think this is something quite common from Cloud9 when they do get the buy up, they play a little bit safer, going that out though. Flash is going to hold him off and extended the tailwind. Jazzy is going to put some damage to the mid, and that's going to drop a Spectre down on the floor.
Yeah, that's a little bit spooky for the side of Cloud9 White, being able to give off that extra gun power and it going onto agility. Bob's gonna try and get some frags right back. Thankfully, that Spectre does do a lot of damage, so even though agility has one in hand, it's not quite going to be enough. And now Curie with this classic, the only one remaining.
One down. In an aggressive position, shot, but now only 34 HP. It's going to be Cat coming in from Catwalk.
Teleport's ready.
With the ghost to clean that one up. Cloud9 unfortunately do lose a few lives in the process, and they're going to have to go for that bonus instead of the aggressive buy-up we saw from them in the last game. Just gonna stick to the pistols, the Marshall, as well as those Spectres.
Yeah, that is a little bit unfortunate. I feel like if I was a member of Cloud9 and you really believed in Jazzykins on this Phoenix, I'd go ahead and give that Spectre over to the Phoenix, see if we can get really aggressive, a little bit cheeky, but considering that you're also on this much of a save compared to your opponents, maybe just trying to hold angles and see if you get a little bit lucky in a different way is the better call here. Instead, you can see Mel and Jazzykins holding the same angle and hoping to go toward those duels. Unfortunately, Jazzykins will be the first to fall, does not have a rendezvous of her own.
Face your
get
fear!
out of that sticky situation.
And now just Mel stop in the backside, not having to go, jamming down the shots. It's going to be Dinks that's going to find the actual kill. And now Shen putting that spike down, leads in a 5v3 versus Cloud9 White on the retake. Not able to pop the Nano Swarm in Defender spawn, so Alexis is not yet stalled, but the Nebula is making more hesitant to push through. There is an ult command, but I doubt they're going to invest that in this round. That's going to get things started, though, with a nice pick on Puree. Also, Anvil to be picked up. Now Bob finds another, and the recon bolt peeking through.
One enemy remaining.
Comfort picks coming out from Cloud9 White. All left up to one. Last player standing. And Cat is trying to hold Bob, and now going to get that last pick, and I believe that there is time. Cloud9 White finding another bonus here on the side.
Wow, and what a round for them to get back. It really was a combination of Cat being able to pick up that initial little pick up that Vandal, and that is just so much better at being able to find those headshots. We see that Cat was able to find 2, waiting enough time for that recon bolt from Bob to come back up and gather enough information for them to really secure that round. And what a great round for them to pick up as well, considering that one of their players was on just a Ghost, one was on just a Sheriff, the rest were on just
Leave
held
them no
over
escape.
Marshals
Need
and
help.
Spectres from the previous round, and now they're putting their opponents in that same exact position. A bunch of Sheriffs and a Marshal for the side of Elite going into this round, while Cloud9 White are fully stacked.
They've even caught an operator for Mel, but they're leaving Mel alone without any support on the B site, which can be really scary considering how many angles they've gotten her to watch, with the fact that there is no trademark in mid. So there is absolutely no way of knowing if someone's going to be creeping up on her market, and that singular rendezvous, maybe there's going to be rotations made around now, but otherwise Cloud9 White have made a really good read on lead here, especially on the eco.
And being on this eco, we are seeing a lot safer of gameplay coming out from Elite. I mean, makes sense. You're really relying on a lot of that utility. Speaking of, starting off with that flash drive, it comes onto site for Shen, but Deeks unfortunately goes for just shooting down the trademark and immediately dashing out of there. And that just means that a lot of Elite players fall very quickly to Cloud9 White.
One enemy remaining.
Mel is able to avoid
Spike down. 30 seconds left.
This is the operator shot though, and that allows Dinks to actually find the pick onto Alexis. They know they have the spike down on Catwalk though. So
I got
this is
the
a
spike.
really hard situation. And 1v4 and Cat just swings for the kill as well. Cloud9 White up 4. We've seen this before, 4 in a row from Cloud9, and then things start to get a little bit more dicey. But with the economy situation, Cloud9 are looking pretty good.
Looking pretty good, and good enough that Elite are choosing to go ahead and give themselves this time out. I mean, it makes sense. You're down 0-4, and I like this decision to go ahead and say better late than never, because sometimes you see teams really just kind of dig themselves their own grave and wait just a little bit too long. And I think that a problem for how Elite has been playing this so far, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because it has just been a lot of pistol rounds, eco rounds, but even the round that they ended up losing where Cloud9 White were on a safer buy-up was really just not being able to be in the position to go for those trades. They fell to Cat in an unfortunate situation, weren't able to get that trade back, and lost weaponry as a result.
I definitely think that Cloud9 White, when they do also go for the stacks on each of the site, they are very disciplined with how they use their utility, so that Elite doesn't immediately go for those. Like, they don't try to force a rotation if they're going to go for a stack. They don't use too much utility and let Elite know that there are a lot of players on the site, so they go for the quick rotations, and instead are very, very disciplined, acting like they're playing very, very far back on both of the sites and just defending very passively, and it kind of lures them into a false sense of security. Now Cloud9 White, another stack from them, but this time I feel like the gamble is not the correct one.
We'll see if that is going to end up biting them, but a lot of attention towards A once again. It feels like Lee are very used to people aggressively pushing out into wine, and that just hasn't ever actually been the play from Cloud9 White, and that could kind of speak to how Elite have decided to approach this game. They're expecting plays that other teams make and not plays that they've seen Cloud9 White make in this instance and in this game.
Ooh. Short engagement from Dinks and Alexis in mid. Dinks is going to try to back off a little bit more. Ooh, Jazzy with the quick curveball, buffing that speed, but they're not going to expect Dinks in the are they? Oh, wow. Jazzy just turns quickly
Jazzy.
and gets the flip. Nice job. Nicely done, but that's going to give the Hey, ooh, nicely done from Mel as well, taking down the controller.
Yeah, that's a rough spot to be into, because smokes can be so instrumental in holding off that push in from players on the defensive side, so losing that is certainly rough. Now This ultimate coming out from Alexis is going to be a big part of helping Cloud9 White get onto this site. Allows for Jazzykins to find that kill. Will we get that resurrection onto Alexis? That would be a nice thing to be able to do, but if you can't get to it, you just can't. Mel,
One enemy remaining.
Watch angles close and far, but it is Jazzykins who finds the frags at closer range while Cat gets to sit pretty in the dark cover and defuse that bomb.
I think finally having the Phoenix pick get to shine and pay off a little bit is definitely like a great moment for Cloud9 White as well. Getting Jazzy that 4K, able to clear out the angles, use curveballs effectively. Really difficult to do, but the fact that she got a lot of value out of that round must feel really nice. Now having the Run It Back available, as well as the From the Shadows and the Hunter's Fury. Now we know that Bob can do a lot with his Hunter's Fury, but the From the Shadows and the Run It Back are a little
Get out of my way!
for Cloud9.
And a very different style from Elite here, not really defaulting at all, watching a little bit for flank because that From the Shadows, but for the most part really sticking together as 5, which is quite different from what we've seen them do on previous rounds.
Spike down B.
From Elite, and Bob is going to take down Agility on the flank, but Dinks is already in the site, getting Jazzykins down a member.
Spike planted.
Going 4-4 even on the
You should run.
Still an eco from the lead, going to make it more difficult, but they're investing the lockdown now. Mel is going to try and see if anyone's going to go for an aggressive lead. The way she's walking up is making me a little bit nervous, but they're pretty confident. There's absolutely no one in main.
What?
Wow, what was that shot though?
Last player
I'm scared.
standing.
What?
enemy
You're
remaining.
going to find 2. Now it's all left up to Alexis. 1v1 situation. Dinks only has a sheriff, I believe. Oh no, that's Bladestorm still dashing right away, but into the open, and Alexis finds that pick as well, guaranteeing themselves the tie for the half.
Wow, and gets the defuse off. Less than 2 seconds, but enough time to spare, and is even going to be able to pick up that operator to get it back into the hands of Mel once again, who, yeah, as you mentioned, made an insane shot through those eternally paper-thin walls of Ascent to Jared. I mean, crazy shots. I mean, sometimes you just have to go for those. You know, so many people will hold that spot towards lane as well as that back corner box, and you can just shoot through that little house. Make sure that you get yourself some extra bit of damage or even some nice kills through some of those walls. So heads up play from Mel and heads up plays from Cloud9 all around as that tracking from Alexis secured them that round.
Cloud9 White, I mean, they definitely look a lot more solid, more confident. There's some Mel? What was that? Dinks dashes straight into Mel's crosshairs and the operator, and the recon is pinging out the player on the catwalk. Mel somehow repositioning to market up the lane, and Bob got out the little head of Agility and take her
One
down.
enemy remaining.
But now the trades are going
Spike
back
down
and forth.
B.
And 1, 2, 3, 4 leads. Cloud9 are just going to tear through them.
Yeah, that was a nice little back and forth, unfortunately. The silver reload that came out from Bob almost immediately upon killing Agility gotta feel a little bit bad because it just meant that Jared got to turn and pick up that kill for free. But the back and forth still ends up going into Cloud9 White's favor as they find themselves that 7th round in a row. Whew.
7 rounds in a row. I mean, Elite, it just seems like they're really struggling. They have these 3 ultimates now available. I think this lockdown can be very instrumental in the post-plant even, to try and get them off the spike, force them off the site, and delay for a little bit more time. The Nightfall as well. It's their post-plant that are really suffering here. We've seen
Spike
Cloud9
down
have a lot
mid.
of success in those, but Jazzykins stopping the running back, finding that first pick. Elite, they're finishing sheriffs. They're doing shots. But in the
Last
end,
player
Cloud9,
standing.
there's a better pick trade than, even a Fragment made kill Cloud9 on a tear.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about the run it back that is so instrumental. Even if you don't get a kill, if you see anyone, just the information that is gathered and allowing for the rest of your team to really be able to hone in on where to use their utility. In this example, Bob being able to figure out where to throw that Sova dart makes so much more of a difference. Was able to ping out 2 players hiding behind that box in mid, and it just allows you to really zero in on where your opponents are. And we're really, I feel like in this game more so, getting to see how Jazzykins intended for this Phoenix to be used.
Tear it down.
Ooh. That was a nice combo of utility as well, getting that early bit of damage with the hot hands as well as the shock dart to just try and make the health bars a little bit lower. Succeeded in getting the damage with the shock dart. I'm not sure if the hot hands was able to connect, but now Cloud9, they're playing a little bit of a gamble once again. It seems like they have a pretty good read on this game, however, and they're just having Cat rotate over, knowing that there is a possible A site happen. Mel is in good position, but instead they're trying to aggress through Garden, and Cat just takes down 2 Mel as well, and it's just a meltdown for Lee. They weren't trying to get the resurrection though, but there's a sound. After that, it's Captain Jazzy.
One enemy
in
remaining.
such good position. Flawless for Cloud9 White. And I don't think we expected anything different.
Yeah, the setup from Cloud9 White, once again, I think that the way that Lee is playing is just anticipating a different team. They're playing like they're expecting people to be a little bit more further pushed up onto Cat. That time I can kind of understand it because in previous rounds, either Jazzykin or Mel held that angle, and then all of a sudden in that round, they were a lot further back. But it still feels like Lee is just playing towards defaulting that a lot of other teams do, and maybe not taking exact examples from Cloud9 White, who continue to just switch it up and keep Lee guessing.
Yeah, they have multiple setups here, and Mel in such good position once again, walked all the way up with absolutely no punishment, and the timing was really good as well. Now 9 in a row. This time Mel doesn't hit the shots, and Agility is able to get a little bit of damage. But now it's a lockdown on B, and it's actually a little bit of a bait from that A side since the spike is sitting pretty right next to the lockdown. I don't think they have the shock dart line right that much either, so they're going to be using the nano more and just zone them out to try and get your fear. James already at the market door, and here's the nightfall as well, just delaying it even further. They're not trying to gather info, they're not trying to aggress off of that utility, they're just using it to delay. They're using it to make Cloud9 more effective, and while it is working, it doesn't give them any net gain.
Yeah, the most it is likely doing is stopping the side of Cloud9 White from being able to hear how fast that bomb is ticking, and Jazzykins just trying to follow up and get enough space to restabilize the board and bring Alexis back into it nicely in timing for that trade as Jared is the only one remaining and forced back and forth. A nice shot to Alexis, and now in a 1v1 situation, and unfortunately not able to swing far and fast enough. And this bomb is ticking fast, but it should be barely enough time. Cloud9 might really like getting it to sub 1 second and just seeing how close they can make us guess.
I think that's also just such a nerve-wracking situation for Jazzykins to be in. They're on the verge of having this flawless game. All of a sudden it's a 1v1 and it's like, oh, there's no time. But Jazzy is able to clutch that one out with 0.19 seconds left over. I think Cloud9, they're just looking so comfortable. There's nothing that Lee can do to break their pacing. This time they're set up for a very, very fast take onto that A site. They're trying to go a little bit more aggressive, and it's going to be Mel once again, but the early info to try and displace. Unfortunately, 0 Point doesn't find anything for them. They're going to use top flashes. Mel actually able to find a pick. Alexis does find her own, but Mel is just going to be forced out. Now, Lee, this is a pretty advantageous position for them, especially since they know where Mel is, having to reposition up in heaven. It's once again the post plants, though. The post plants where they suffer. They need to find a way to make this post plant last for the entire 45 seconds.
Yeah, that recon bolt is going to ping out Shen's position, and starting off with that paranoia. Unfortunately, Shen gets the jump on that, and a nice post plant to finally come out from the side of Leet. Does find themselves
Last
that
round in the
first
half.
round, and I do think that we saw Cloud9 White throw out a lot of utility, but not follow up on it as soon as they maybe would have liked, and I'm not really sure what held them back there. I wasn't quite able to see anything that I could point out, but we saw Bob go ahead with that recon bolt. It pinged out Shen, and on previous rounds and the previous map where we saw them play Ascent, when Bob was able to do that, they were able to pick up quick kills through those boxes with those pings, and this time it just didn't happen. So maybe a little bit of disorientation on the players coming in through heaven versus tree, and all of a sudden that's more than enough. That miscommunication can be the way for Elite to find themselves at least keeping Cloud9 White off of a perfect map.
Bob is going to get that first pick after the Blade Storm was popped, so just immediately a negative value for Elite once again. And it seems like, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a
One enemy remaining.
Off the back of that first round.
Spike down,
Mel with
B.
the Sword Force bringing back, and Cloud9 is getting their revenge for them stealing away that perfect game. Alexis, while dropping, is able to hit that shot. So I suppose they also don't apply to
Switching sides
when they are trying to win.
And I mean, we mentioned it, Cloud9 White haven't dropped a pistol round in any of the matches that we've watched yet. And if they continue that pistol round hot streak, then they're going to get themselves to match point. And that's going to be a extremely difficult situation for Elite. I mean, being this far back to start with is just rough in general, but losing that immediate first round and your opponents just having strictly more credits than you and forcing you to buy up kind of into oblivion, not the place where you want to be. So if there's a time for them to have extremely tactical defensive strategies, it's here and now.
And this is also their map pick, so the fact that they are losing at such a deficit is so devastating for Elite, since they are going to be in Cloud9's territory once we get onto Haven. And now it seems like Cloud9, they're going for this catwalk push. They want to get some mid control, leaving Mel as that lurker. I think an unknown factor for Elite is definitely going to be that Killjoy and her ability to lock down these sites. The alarm bot already destroyed in mid, so they have a little bit of info here, but Dinks being pinged out, unfortunately, by the recon, not knowing if there is someone in catwalk. This is a really awkward take onto A, because they are just pinched from both sides.
Oh,
Cat
wow.
is watching for it, though. A nice shot onto
down
ability. They
A.
still need to worry about main, but Cloud9, they are just in good position, and it seems like a free spike plant onto the site.
Got spike.
Yeah, unfortunately they do have to pick up the bomb and get it onto site, but it looks like they've got more than enough time. Unfortunately, Bob falling
Spike
to
planted.
right there. But the split up to defensive players is going to be difficult for them to get
enemy remaining.
onto site. And that paranoia really disorienting Jared and allows for a nice, easy, clean pickup from Jazzykins and Mel with a good follow-up.
Match
This
point.
is just really nice, clean gameplay from Cloud9 White. And Elite, they have no choice except to use this timeout right here, right now. And I'm not sure how much this can do for them, because now they are on the defense, and looking at their strategy, I feel like it just has to be Killjoy has to make that right gamble, and then after that, they need to be able to retake if Cloud9 are able to get that spike down.
Yeah, I think you said it pretty beautifully. The gamble is going to matter a whole lot, and you just gotta hope to be a little bit lucky. You gotta figure out how you're spending your money this round. Your credits are going to matter so much, especially because it is likely going to have to convert into that next round. And it's just going to be a vicious cycle for the side of Elite if they can't find them. Well, I mean, it's going to be a vicious cycle because they're going to have to win runner. Otherwise, this entire thing is over right here and now. So this buy up mattering a whole lot. This gamble on where that Killjoy gets set up is mattering a lot. And the rotations and how and where they come out is going to be pivotal in this round.
It's also the question of, do we buy guns or utility here? Because that Killjoy, like we mentioned, very instrumental, but the fact is they have not been winning a lot of gunfights against Cloud9. So they're going to be needing that. They're going to be needing that U kill if they can't be winning their gunfights, and that's just a fact. But Cloud9 seems like they're actually going to be set up towards B, and that is where the Killjoy is. But it's not really a setup per se. She's just kind of got her utility hanging around in some places around B, but it's not really meant to melt down any attackers. It's just there to get a bit of tick damage as they're passing by.
And I mean, I love that we're seeing Cloud9 White still really respect Lee. It's saying, you know, we know how much that Killjoy gamble is going to matter. Using that Owl drone and being able to tell that that Killjoy is on B is meaning this rotation that's coming out through and into mid and likely going to result up a catwalk and into tree, or maybe they're going to continue to do a little bit of surprise and just try to gather this mid control. But you have to expect, since we saw that Killjoy turret, that there's this alarm bot in mid, because this is just such a default play, and that is going to be enough for Jazzykins to make sure that I like this play. We did get to see it on the previous map,
30 seconds left.
previous map that was Ascent as well. That kind of rotation in through spawn and over towards A, and just like that, they're all here. That Flash did hit a lot of players. Unfortunately, he isn't enough to pick up more than one. Mel's now trying to go through that astral pole,
10 seconds left.
find that gun, but Alexis perched and ready at the top of heaven to greet any elite members trying to get onto the site.
Nice!
Ooh, the Stinger is going to win against the Bulldog this time. It's still a 3-for-3 situation. Stinger's on the flank, pretty isolated with only a sheriff. He just gets runned and gunned by that player standing. The name of the game right now. Now Jared versus Bob, just throwing out the shoulders, and Bob is in the advantage here since she gets to play for time, while Jared has to try and go for the defuse. And there's the recon board. It's been tucked safely though, and Jared gets the pick. Leap, they stay alive for one more round.
Yeah, unfortunately for Elite, a lot of players falling does mean that that forced buy that they were put into is going to keep them kind of at a disadvantage here, likely not with enough money to continue to buy a full entire loadouts. And Cloud9 White are kind of fine to be in a save realm, drop a few rounds, and just, I mean, they're on match point. They could go for a full save, just buy for next, and just try to force guns out of the hands of Elite for as many rounds as they want.
That is very true, but looking at the economy of Cloud9, even buying the sheriffs is a little bit risky since they are going down to a few hundred creds each, but I think they might be able to go as well, considering the way that they find you playing. Now the alarm bot is going to ping out Jazzy. There's no one to follow up. Jazzy is just able to find the pick, and now it's Kure, but it's the run it back that's been destroyed, but Kure is holding it down and has the spike as well. Now it's Alexis. They've been peeking Kure one enemy remaining, but I think that is a huge downfall of Cloud9 White thus far. Now it's just all left up to Cat in a 1v2 with Spike not in her control, but almost a full utility. The Paranoia still available, as well as the Shrouded Step. Could go for a ballsy play. Dark Cover is still available as well. Another 10 seconds, but just goes for the peek. Jinx is going to be able to find the pick.
And great play together coming out from Elite, finding themselves 2 in a row here and keeping themselves in this game, trying to keep their weaponry as strong as possible. But like we mentioned, every time they have a player fall, they're forced a little bit further back, especially considering that if they lose one, that's going to be it, and it's going to be over. So kind of all across the board buys, some Bulldogs, some Spectres, but trying to keep it all together and just play to their strengths, which has been how they're handling this defensive side and keeping Cloud9 White off of sight.
Well, now that it seems like they're going to try and go for another mid push. I'm not sure if they're going to attempt to use the Phoenix and wall in mid once again. The alarm bot is going to sniff out the positioning of Mel, who's going to continue on a deeper lurk, and now the Prowler is getting a little bit of information in B as well. There's no one in B main at the very least. and it seems like that's the go-ahead to maybe get to the but once again, it's the push in, and Jazzy actually going to find a pick onto Shen with the hot hands. Puree going to from Mel, however. Bob, nice shots from the Sheriff, though. And the tailwind just doesn't go through, I suppose. Agility now taking down 2 on the site. Bob, having picked up the Phantom from the dead body of Jinx, is in a position to potentially clutch things out. Hunter's Fury available, 2 shock darts as well as the Owl drone, and we've definitely seen Bob do it before.
30 seconds left.
But even if Bob, again, doesn't take down this round and win it for Cloud9, just having killed this many players of Elite, and once again, forcing those rebuys to come through, forcing them to be rough, for it to be rough on the pockets of Elite, is mattering so much. But I like this decision to go ahead and rotate and buy a lot of time for this bomb to be taken down, and Bob to hopefully just get into a position that is difficult for the 2 remaining players of Elite to deal with.
The only problem with this B site is it's so hard to get into post-plant position. A site, it's so easy, but because of B and the nature of lane, it is so much harder to get out of that position and lead in a 1v2 position. Even if Bob was able to find that first pick, they were set up for the trades, and they are able to get to round 4. And now Cloud9, I believe this is their full buy round. They have the 2 ultimates, as Elite have 2 ultimates of their own to counter, but I'm not sure what the economy is looking like on their side.
Yeah, it's kind of back and forth. They're able to buy up these full rifles, but Dink's the only one looking light on armor. But thankfully, with the amount of rounds that they've been able to string together, and even though they've had a lot of deaths, they're finally at this point where 3 players are able to buy up for themselves, and likely one will be able to buy for one and another going into the next round, which is where they want to be. It's where they're going to start to stabilize and really be able to hold on. Now they just have to worry about winning rounds, and they don't have to worry so deeply about their economy.
I'll find you.
They're trying to take a little bit more space of mid. It's play that I respect. Cloud9 White isn't really denying them that information at all. And look at what's happening on the B site. Leaf is able to push all the way out of B main because of how far back that trademark has been placed. It looks like they're looking for that A committal.
Yeah, this is spooky, and the start is going to be that null command. It is going to shut off that Killjoy utility and allow for a strong push to come through from Cloud9 White. 1 kill, and I mean, that damage didn't beat that Phoenix, so we're going to be able to regain that HP, get onto site with that bomb down, and set up the post lane.
Now in the post situation, hopefully they can find something. Jinx finds the first, and agility.
1 enemy remaining.
1 more, but Cloud9 White once again, it's Bob against the world, takes down the first. The bomb is being held down with the shot on the heaven player, but Bob with the 3K. The last flick is just in time, and it's the clutch from Bob. Bring